The cloud. Right, guys, I'm here today with Natasha Attwood. For those of you who don't know who Natasha is, could you just introduce yourself, tell us a bit about yourself, what you do?
Yeah, I'm Tasha, run Miyagi's dog training and behaviour services. I work with all sorts of dogs from all sorts of different backgrounds, specialise in reactive dogs specifically. I've got 3 wolf dogs of my own and a spaniel. The spaniel's an assistance dog, and then my wolf dog, she's training to be an assistance dog as well.
Yeah, that was one of the main reasons I wanted to sort of talk to you, was about your wolf dogs. Also on the side of sort of like, I get it, like especially like with dog walking and stuff, where you come across people who've taken on a dog, and then very quickly they realise, basically, shit, I've taken on a dog that I don't really know what I'm doing with. You know, it's hyper, it's destructive, it's destroying the house. Sometimes people have taken these dogs on completely innocently. Other times they've maybe been missold what they've actually got.
Yeah.
Because like in the past, I took a picture of a dog in a well-known rescue centre, and you actually commented on it and you said that's a Czechoslovakian wolf dog.
Yeah.
But in the rescue centre, it was labelled and described as a German Shepherd Cross Husky.
Yeah.
And it's sort of talking about people doing the research into what type of dog you're actually taking on. Because I've noticed, especially in my area, there seems to be a big kudos to taking on working line dogs.
Yeah.
Labradors, Shepherds, Malleys, Spaniels, Collies. And then very quickly people are realising this border collie is just insane.
Yeah.
It's trying to herd people in the park, it's chasing buses, and then sort of all these reactive behaviours start to creep in because the needs of the dog are not being met. And sort of, so you've got quite an unusual breed in these Czechoslovakian wolf dogs, which not many people know about them. I've done a little bit of research today, looking up, but there's a lot of contradicting sort of information about them.
Yeah.
Some say they are a banned breed in certain countries. Some say that in parts of America they have to be 3rd generation to be allowed in that state and stuff like that. So you just tell us a little bit about the wolf dogs and how you came to have them.
Yeah, so when I was working at some kennels where I was doing protection work as part of my training as a trainer, working with rescue, and it was a boarding facility as well. And my boss was pushing and pushing and pushing me to have a German Shepherd. And I love German Shepherds, adore them. But all I was seeing, because he had so many German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois, and I really, really like Malinois. And I was like, I was like, with working full time and like living in rented property, it wouldn't be wise for me to take on a Mallee, because if I'm working full time, I can't provide the exercise needs to these dogs. And I mean, in the kennels, it wasn't a great kennel, and the way that these dogs were kept wasn't great. But if you went along, because my boss put breeze block in as like a compartment for them to sleep in and nest down sort of thing at night. And these poor dogs, because he only worked them for so many hours a day sort of thing, had chomped through the breeze block. So he got into like a hoarding behaviour where he took on all these dogs, couldn't provide for them all. And I mean, I did my best as well, but with looking after the rescue dogs as well and the boarding dogs by myself, it was a lot. And I just thought, if I had a dog in the house and they were chewing finish like that, it'd break my heart, because it meant that I couldn't possibly meet their needs.
Yeah.
So we started to look at German Shepherds, but then he was always at the vets with the German Shepherds, and it was hip dysplasia or some other injury, or they'd been doing bite work and then suddenly a limb had developed, and then something was wrong with the elbow. So I was like, I really don't want a dog where they're going to get injured and where they're not strong enough to do the job, sort of thing. So anyway, it all came to a head with the kennels, and I left because I just couldn't cope with the welfare side of it, and it wasn't good. So then after that, I was still like wanting a German Shepherd or that type of dog. Me and Mally was off the cards. And I kept looking, and I couldn't find a breeder that I liked in the UK. So I'd already took a Staffy from the kennels that I was working at anyway, because she was brought in as a bait dog, and her owner had killed himself on drugs. And the police wanted to destroy him because she belonged to a drug addict. And went into the kennels, and my boss put a note up saying, like, don't touch a dog, don't approach a dog, put the hatch down if you're going to deal with her. Extremely dangerous. Went up to the kennel, and the poor little thing was in the corner crying her eyes out, covered in fag burns and all sorts. Jesus. So I was like, I'm not having this. I was like, no, she's coming home with me. So I took her, and the police was like, you can't just do that. And I was like, she's not a danger to anyone. I swear I'll use muzzle on her. I'll rehabilitate her myself. It's going to be fine. It says, may not even keep it, it may just be fostering, but you're not killing this dog. So I knew whatever dog I did get would have to cope with the Staffy. So I kept looking and looking and looking. And then because I'd gone self-employed at this point as well, because I couldn't cope with the kennels, it was like, I really, really would like a wolf dog or Alaskan Malamute. So I started looking back, because when I was a kid, we had Huskies and Malamutes that were the dogs that nobody wanted. So they ended up coming to us. So I'd had quite a lot of experience in Northern breeds anyway. And I was like, but with the Tamaskins, I was getting fobbed around quite a lot with the breeders because I was asking lots of questions, and then they was getting annoyed with me. But I didn't know much about this breed, so I didn't want to just take a dog on that they said was several different Northern breeds. And it's like, well, Malamutes can be quite funny, so can Akitas, and if you put that together, so I was a little bit worried because I was a lot younger then as well. So that came to a head there. And then I started to find the Czech Wolfdogs, Charlie Wolfdogs, and then I found my current breeders. And I went to microchip the puppies that they had. And all I remember is on the front garden when I pulled up, there was this huge, and they just looked like pure wolves going absolutely mental in the kennels. And I was like, a little bit scared. And I was like, no, I cannot handle that. And Grace come out. She's like, no, they're fine, they're really friendly. She says they just look scary. She says they do have the puppies in there after all. So I microchipped all these puppies. Of course, you fall in love with puppies because they're all over the place and, you know, they're playful. And I just walked away and I just said, if you want a puppy, we'll hold one back for you. And I says, no, I'll think about it. And it took 6 years for me to finally decide to get a wolf dog, because I read so much about them. And in our country, in the UK, they have to be at least third generation away from the wolf. Otherwise, they're on the Dangerous Animal Act because of being wildlife. And all you read on the internet back then 6 years ago was wolf dogs don't make a great pet. They can be aggressive, they can't be around other dogs, and all this type of stuff. So at the time, I was like, no, if I'm running classes and that type of thing, I need to have a demo dog. Obviously, the Staffy was out of the picture because, you know, she's way too reactive to be around any other dogs. So now I was like, well, what do people like? And I was like, well, people like Spaniels and they like Labradors. So that's how I ended up getting Diesel because, you know, Spaniel, Labrador and Cocker Spaniel. I was like, well, people like that. And it worked. And Diesel taught me a lot. And then with the Staffy, we found she wasn't coping with me working. So, because obviously she couldn't have the opportunities that Diesel did. And I did cut my time, so she went for a walk first thing in the morning. I came back at lunch, so she was never on her own for more than 3 hours. And then her fur started to fall out, so hundreds and hundreds of pounds later at the vet with steroids and homeopathic treatments, lots of different things, and they said it was like seasonal alopecia. And it turned out she was suffering that much with separation anxiety but not vocalizing, that the stress was making her fur fall out. So then I had to make the decision to let her go. So she was adopted through the RSPCA to an old lady who was at home all the time. So I was absolutely heartbroken. But it was the best thing for her.
Yeah.
And she was never supposed to be permanent. And I mean, she was so good with her training, and she was never tried to attack Diesel or anything like that. And she got to the point where she was coming to classes. and she's really good, really chilled and fully rehabilitated. But to keep a dog for your own selfish reasons and not meet her needs, because bills need paying, especially like in rented accommodation. The best thing to do is to let her go. So an old lady came to meet her 3 times, and she had 3 staffies herself, and she lived in the middle of nowhere in Yorkshire, had acres and acres of land, and the old lady just fell in love with her, and she fell in love with her straight away, and all the other dogs were absolutely fine. And then I get pictures and stuff still, so I know she's in a fantastic home. So that's how Dove sort of made her own way. But she's really happy now. She's got no health problems. So it was simply down to the separation anxiety. So when Diesel was about 2, and then my health started to get worse. And I was like, well, I think now's the time when I really want to get the dog that I want instead of people pleasing. Because that's the main thing, because it's like classic, get a dog that other people like. And it's like, but what do I like? Because I love Diesel to pieces and he's amazing, but at the same time, it's like you just can't keep people pleasing all of your life.
No, absolutely not.
So I went back into it again and started looking, and I found that America was very, very different to the UK. So UK, the food price is still saying the same thing. Has to be at least 3 generations away from the wolf. And America's like you can have 80% content and that kind of thing. So I started looking at all the breeders, and some people was charging ridiculous money. And then obviously Grace and Leon, I knew them, I had a relationship with them. I've been working with Wolfdogs locally as well, so I knew more about them, had more hands-on experience, and I knew it's going to be hard work. So I spoke to my landlord, and my landlord was absolutely fine with it. And then I just happened to message him and said, if you have a litter upcoming this year, if you could let me know, I might be interested. And they said, well, funny you should say that, because she's actually having puppies now. That says we're just waiting for the next one to come. So I said, okay then. It happened really fast.
Wow.
So I went to meet Coda when she was 2 days old. There's only 2 girls in the litter, and then the rest were boys. I think there was 6 boys. And just completely fell in love. And mum like came over, was really fussy, and then grandma came in. So it's by this point they got to know me. But what I didn't realise when I was a lot younger was that wolf dogs are wary of you until they know you. So we're not knowing much about behaviour back then. And obviously I was quite nervous. I didn't realise that wolf dogs actually use that communication to kind of say, I don't know you, I'm really scared. So it's like the human versus the spider. People are scared of spiders, but they're probably more scared than what we are. So I went and saw Coda every 2 weeks, and I saw the puppies growing up and started to build a relationship with her. And then when she was 8.5 weeks, so she had the vaccinations, and the breeders wanted to keep a little bit longer to make sure there's no side effects. And then I brought her home, and Grace and Leon taught me so much about wolf dogs and putting mind at rest. And they just said like it's going to be a hard slog, and I was like, I know, but I really wanted this challenge. And she came home and she was awful. She was awful. I thought, like, you're getting a puppy, and when I've been microchipping these litters for them, they was like really cuddly and they wanted to know you. Coda was like, go away. And she didn't want cuddling. She didn't want to interact. The only time she wanted to interact was if she was biting you, scratching you, ripping your clothes, destroying something. Oh, you got food. So other than that, you could not cuddle this puppy for anything. Training, she was terrible. Absolutely awful training. So you'd say to her, like, if you're trying to do sit and stay, no, that's not happening. See ya. And she just takes herself off. So I used to train in these farmers' fields, and she just wander. So it didn't matter that it was like is in the middle of nowhere, so there's no risk of traffic or any harm coming to her. But she was just absolutely terrible. But I think she's made me a much better trainer, and she made me think outside the box. And it's basically like her attitude was, if you want to train me, then you better really work hard at this, because you're boring to me. And everything in the environment to her was really, really exciting.
Yeah.
she came to classes, she was brilliant with other dogs. In fact, she was a little bit too boisterous with other dogs. So it's a really good job that the classes that I took her to, the dogs would tolerate a puppy that was quite bulgy. Because there's a picture that everyone likes, one of my old profile pictures, and Coda was a puppy, and I used to teach on the beach in the summer. And I was like, Coda, it's time to go now. And she's like, no, she's having one of her typical Coda fits, so I'm not leaving. And I picked her up, and she played dead in my arms. And then everyone thought it was absolutely hilarious. I think someone in the class took the picture, and everyone was absolutely howling. And to look at the picture, you do think she's literally just died because it's the way she just flopped. And this was Coda. Oh, she was awful. I used to speak to Grace and Leon a lot about her. Spoke to a lot of other dog trainers about her as well. And they was like, we just don't know how you do it. You took on a wolf dog, like, you are absolutely insane. And it used to get to me quite a lot as well, because as I was trying to become a better and better trainer all the time, obviously I'd left protection, and I was suddenly engulfed in the Facebook dog industry. And I was trying to do better all the time. But then what I found was I was comparing myself to other trainers. So you see other trainers that are doing heel works music, and you're like semi-disabled with a wolf dog with a really bad attitude. And it got me down, and it really, really made me upset. And then working with clients, especially like with reactive dogs and stuff, they'd turn around and say, yeah, but it's all right for you because your two dogs are absolutely amazing. And I go, no, he's Liz, Coda's a nightmare. And they're like, no, your dog's amazing. And I didn't see what clients saw, and that was what mattered the most, not what other dog trainers was doing. So I was focusing all my, like, pulling myself down based on other dog trainers rather than, well, my clients think she's amazing. It's just me that's like, got anxiety and really down on myself.
So you're focusing more on the negative side of it rather than seeing all the positives that you'd actually achieved with her.
Yeah. I think because I fell into this really, like, on Facebook, and you want to fit into the industry and you're trying to make friends and stuff. And I did make friends, but then, and they are amazingly really good friends, but some of their friends weren't very nice people. So whenever they said something cocky, the type of person that I am, I took it to heart. So this was bothering me more than anything nice that somebody could say. But one day I just woke up and just like, hang on a minute, I've got a wolf dog, and she's not a typical dog, and she's hard to train. And like, why am I comparing myself to dog trainers with border collies and pastoral breeds? You can do heel works muting and stuff. Like, no, I just need to take myself out of all of this and then just start focusing on like enjoying her for what she is and just accept her teaching me. And when I did that, it's like something flipped. So we entered the Pet Professional Guild competition, and I think at the time I was trying to teach sit pretty.
Yeah.
And we never expected to win. And it was just like, Louise said that they saw something in our relationship. And I was like, well, I don't feel like that. I feel like a rubbish trainer, and I don't feel like a very good dog owner right now. But to win that competition, and I think that's where it set me off, like, on a better path. So I deleted people. So people is cruel. It's like, you're gone. That's it now. Not interested. And then I set the community group up, because we've got our own community group, and it was originally for dog owners who was really struggling.
Yeah.
And it was so out of hours, if they didn't feel they could message me, they could post the group, because we had social dog walks and that kind of thing. So it's like, if you don't message me because you think you're taking my time, post in the group, and then maybe other dog owners will speak to you and you can form friendships and that kind of thing. Because having reactive dogs is also very lonely. So the same as having a wolf dog, reactive owners were finding the same, and they was comparing themselves to other dog owners. So they see a dog owner with their dog off on lead on the beach, and they're like, I wish my dog was like that. So I was starting to identify with reactive dog owners more, not because Coda was reactive, but because we was like going through the same thing.
Yeah.
So we didn't feel like we was good enough. So the community kind of grew from there. And then Grace and Leon had another set of puppies. And Jamie really wanted a second one because, like, with these being assistance dog, Coda didn't like being left on her own, and she couldn't always go to work with Jamie, and it was hard, especially through the summer. So it was like, if she had a friend, then it'd be better. So if one dog needs to come out, then at least two can stay at home, keep each other company. And I was like, and I'm not messing up with separation anxiety again. Like, I'm doing it right this time. When Django came along, Django was completely different. He was amazing as a puppy. He wanted cuddles and he loved training. And he was like, whatever you throw at me, I'm going to do it. I'm so much better. He's different to Coda because he comes from the Northern Inuit line, whereas she comes from the Malamute line. And Django was just absolutely amazing, complete walk in the park. And I think if I'd had Django first, I probably would have gone for a second wolf dog a lot earlier.
A lot earlier.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
You just kind of fall in love with them. And once I got past all that stuff about being anxious and caring what other people thought, it was just like, no, I really, really, really do like this breed. And Django was amazing. And 6 months came along and adolescence came along, and he's like, I don't remember any training. I'm absolutely rubbish at training. Forget it. But because Coda put me through so much already, I was like, fine, if you want a rest day, you have a rest day. You don't want to train, we won't train. So this time around, I was a lot more chilled out with it. And they are destructive, but you just kind of accept it. You got puppies, you're not going to have nice furniture, and you wait till they grow up to get nice things, sort of thing. And Django started to get attacked a lot by other dogs. So whenever we went out, we was finding that Django was getting attacked by other dogs, and we don't know why. We can only put it down to the fact that he's a wolf dog, so if he smells differently or something like that. And Django is so submissive and scared of his own shadow, so it's really sad. So not because they're reactive or anything, we've avoided going into public places with them because of the stress.
Yeah.
If we do go for a walk, it's into the woods where there's like an empty field and it's just us. Because he was attacked 3 times by the age of 6 months. And he's not the type of dog as puppy that will go banding up to other dogs like Coda did. He'd like sit by me, and he's like, wherever I went, he followed, and he was really, really nervous. And then another dog would come up and sniff him, and then bang, that was it. And they was just attacking him. And it's like, whoa, where did this come from? And picked Django up, he's screaming. And then that was it for Django. I was like, I want to go home, don't want to stay out. And we just felt we couldn't keep putting Django in that position. So we even tried when he was a little bit older, and a friend's dog attacked him. There's no blood or anything like that. The dog had just pulled fur out of Django, but it was like, no, this is it now, because he's been attacked so many times and it's not fair. So they do socialise with other dogs, but other dogs that we know, like, we can trust that aren't going to do anything to him. So that's hard as well. And obviously Diesel's absolutely fine with them. And then we got Zombie. That's an insane story. So he wasn't looking for another dog, and definitely not looking for another wolf dog. But Grace and Leon said they've got this little puppy, and he's 12 weeks old. And if I could find anyone to rehome him, and I was like, well, I don't really know, because taking on a wolf dog's a big commitment. And I wouldn't like to say I'd put X person forward and it not work out. I said, leave it with me and I'll think about it. And basically it came down to the fact that he's got double dew claws on his back legs. So people who had gone to see him was like, well, no, he's got a defect, we don't want him. And it's like, he's got double dew claws. It doesn't make him any less of a wolf dog or a dog. So me and Jamie kept talking about it, and then Jamie messaged him behind my back, and he's like, right, we're going to get a puppy. And I was like, oh no, not again. And he's Coda's direct brother, so they've both got exactly the same parents. Spoke to the vets, and they're like, no, if he needs dew claws off, it's not a big deal, but we'll only do it ethically if they ever hurt him. And so far they haven't. But Zombie again is very much like Coda. In fact, he's probably a little bit more feral. So he's cuddly, but he wants to bite your face. So if you're trying to cuddle his puppy and you find like you're pushing him away like this, because you're just constantly trying to mouth your face, So obviously his little mates left when he was 8 weeks old, and Zombie stayed behind with all the adults that Grace and Leon have got. So Zombie didn't kind of learn puppy behaviour from the other pups because he was stuck with the adults. So he was starting to pick up on their boisterousness, beating each other up. So Zombie was like, well, this behaviour's absolutely fine. And we're like, no, this is not absolutely fine. And he's been a lot. And Leon was having to have an operation on at the time as well. Something happened to his face. So poor Grace was raising 2 children and all the wolf dogs, and then got this puppy left behind as well. So normally they take them on car rides to go to the vet, to go to pet shops with them, so they get lots of handling. They have sleepovers with the girls, so lots of kids are about. And Zombie didn't have any of this. So all he knew was their house with these adult wolf dogs. So trying to take him to puppy class, he was hiding under the chair. Didn't want to know, wouldn't let people handle him, wouldn't interact with the other dogs. He had his back to the wall like he was a naughty little kid, and he just facing the wall. And this tiny Cavalier puppy was like trying to come up to him saying, please play with me. And Zombie was like quite big being a wolf dog. And he was just absolutely terrified of this tiny little Cavalier who was determined that he was going to be his friend. So Zombie wasn't taken to adult classes or anything, it was literally puppy class. And it's small breeds, like there was Actons there and Cocker Spaniels, so tiny little dogs, and Zombie was like, I just don't like this. So it was a case of taking him to classes, sitting him on your knee, letting him get used to people, that kind of thing. And he was just completely different again. So I don't think any 2 wolf dogs are ever the same in their personality and behaviour. And even now, Zombie is still terrified of people. So I was trying to do a rally course about 3 months ago in the park behind us. And this old couple walked up with a Shih Tzu and something else. And they was both shouting at Zombie. And Zombie just then, that's it, he jumped onto my legs onto the wheelchair. And he was trembling all over. And the guy turned around and says, oh, you better leave that dog alone because he's going to eat you for breakfast. And I was like, no disrespect, but he's petrified. Your dogs are off the lead and they're coming up at him shouting. So if you don't mind putting him on the lead. And I was like really cross. But people have this expectation straight away that wolf dogs are killers and they're going to eat your dog. And it's quite the opposite. They run away from other dogs and they run away from people. So my best friend, she came around with her new boyfriend just before Christmas, and Coda absolutely freaked out. So the boys were outside and she was like, don't like this, there's a new man in the house, like not keen on this at all. And then when she realised it was Nikki and Nikki's daughter, she's like, oh, is he okay because he's with you? So I made a point to keep talking to this guy I'd never met before and like being really over the top. And then she was like, oh, okay. So then she jumped up and had a fuss. But then when the boys came in, Django's a goof. He loves everybody through the house. So he's like loving them to death. And he thought it was great Alyssa was around because she just giggles and screams. But Zombie, again, he was like, whoa, no, I don't like this. And Zombie's played with Alyssa like loads of times. And Zombie just completely freaked out. So he was like, for safety, and no offense, Alyssa, but because you're a little bit loud, we're going to put Zombie out of the room so that he can chill out, go into his own space. And Alyssa was really upset. It's like, it's not you, it's the breed, and we're just a little bit worried. We don't want Zombie to get really stressed out and then anything accidentally happen. So if we put Zombie out of the way, and then Zombie just kept coming up to the gate of his own accord and then going back again. But yeah, Zombie he still really struggles with people and other dogs. In the house he's fine, but outside it's just like he can go for a walk, but if he sees a person, sees another dog, he's like, no, I do not like this. And he won't react to anything. He just literally turns into a statue. He won't move. There's no moving him. He won't take food. And if another dog comes up to him sniffing, he's not growling. He's not going to attack them. He's just going to lay there. But it's horrible because you know that he's like wanting to shut down and he's really, really stressed.
Yeah.
And he's about 18 months now. And I've done everything with him, done lots and lots of things with him. But I think it is just Zombie's personality that whatever happened in the first 12 weeks of his life, that's enough where he's just not socialized enough. Friends, clients been absolutely amazing with him. Like, they've done everything that I've said, trying to befriend him, sitting with their backs to him, totally ignoring him. If he comes up and has a sniff, then they make sure they sit on their hands and don't fuss him. But yeah, Zombie just really, really struggles. So they're just completely different. And I would not recommend them to a first time or even second time dog owner at all. They're just really hard work. And a lot of them can be reactive as well. So the breeders have come back to me quite a few times where they've had issues with the bitches fighting, all the boys, and they have a contract when you take a puppy. So if you decide at any point in your life you're not having a puppy, it must go back to them. So there's no going to rescue centres, you don't rehome them on Facebook, that kind of thing. So this is a prime example of what can happen. I'm not saying everybody at all, but Grace was really, really upset and she was distraught. So she took Coda's sister back on. And it turned out the people who had her, they said that she was reactive and she was attacking the other dog in the house. But they'd been hitting her. So this poor wolf dog, I mean, if you even raise your voice around these guys, like, they're just terrified, they hate it. So being in a relationship, if you have crosswords, you do it in another room or you go outside, you can't do it around them because they hate it and they just
Your argument.
really scared. Yeah, it's insane. So in a relationship and you want to throttle the other one, you have to learn to be passive aggressive. So the fact that these people have been beating this poor wolf dog, and it was awful, absolutely horrific. And they've not been walking her, not been doing anything with her because of claiming that she was reactive. So Grace and Leon took her back on, tried to introduce her to the other dogs, and then she just launched straight onto one of Grace's bitches, and she couldn't separate them. There was staples at the vets in both dogs. It was absolutely horrific. Grace had to go to hospital with an injury. And it's really sad. And so you're going through what to do and everything, explain it's going to be a long process. And even, like, I don't know this dog, I've not seen her since she's a puppy, but the fact that she's been beaten and abused because they didn't understand her behaviour, then go back to the person who's bred her. I must imagine that's absolutely horrific feeling that you thought you could trust these people, and because they didn't understand the dog, beating it, and yeah, just horrible. And when it came down to it, it was the owner's mistakes. So food, it was leaving food about, and both dogs was going to each other over food. So it wasn't the wolf dog that was necessarily causing the problems. It was just silly mistakes where if they fed them separately, it wouldn't have happened. And like misdirecting onto each other, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But apparently the other dog was treated completely differently. So they just had an attitude with a wolf dog. But if you're taking a wolf dog on, it's expected that you know that they are different. So, but yeah, it's just really sad.
Yeah, that is horrific. Wow. Beating it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I can honestly say I've not seen one in this area other than that one that I saw at the rescue centre that was labelled as a German Shepherd Husky mix, but was clearly a wolf dog.
I did panic when I saw that. I was like, oh no. Because you just know if they're going to go to an unsuspecting home, that people can be unpleasant with them. Because when I was looking at these other breeders, I was invited to join their group. So they've got their own group of where the dog's gone to. And it was, the breeder was encouraging use of e-collars. So if the wolf dogs weren't behaving, she was like, we'll use an e-collar. And I was just like, oh, I don't like this.
Nope.
And so she had nice lines of dogs, but I was like, you're just recommending to use an e-collar. You're not saying use a trainer, use a behaviourist or anything like this. And it was forming a pattern where whatever dog she was breeding was being aggressive. And it's like, but why are they being aggressive? Why don't you want to get down to the bottom of it. What's wrong with the parents that these young puppies are being aggressive, and you're saying use an e-collar? And again, physical force was said to be used, that kind of thing. Someone came back and said they hit the dog and he bit him. And I was like, are you surprised?
Surprised you with me, I'm going to be back.
Exactly. So I just left this group. As I said to the breeder, I just don't think we'll be a good fit for each other, I'm afraid. I know you've got a moral thing of, well, you could have took a puppy and shown how to do it force-free, but at the end of the day, I don't want to give money to somebody like that who's just like recommending e-collars, and it's just not nice at all. And that's the other problem in the UK as well. So I was part of a wolfdog group to give advice as a behaviourist, and obviously with my experience, and I had to leave because across the UK and America, and I know things are different in America, and I'm not attacking anybody, but again, every time there's a problem, or if they allowed wolf dogs off lead, which my guys have fantastic recall, and I've got tons of videos on YouTube as well, or through force-free behaviour, there was like, use an e-collar, or you'd see pictures with the wolf dogs with an e-collar on, and you're like, but you can't do that, it's not right. And I just found that I was surrounded by all these balanced trainers and owners who were balanced. Like, e-collars are amazing, and my dog wouldn't have the freedom that it's got if it wasn't for the e-collar. And this is even in the UK. And I was like, I need to step away from this because you're just not listening at all. And as a force-free person, you speak up and you try to do the right thing, and you just end up attacked. And when it's you versus hundreds of other people that just want to tear you to pieces, because some balance trainers will listen and will learn from each other, and that's absolutely fine. But when people have the opinion that force free doesn't work and e-collar is the only way forward, then you're just going to get torn to pieces like I did. And I was like, well, I need to step away, and I just help the people that I can in the meantime, and keep putting the videos of my guys doing force free work. So
yeah, it becomes quite sort of tribal, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You've got people who are prepared to use prong collars and e-collars and rattle cans and all sorts of crazy stuff on one side, and then you've got like the force-free positive, and it's very rarely that people from either side of that argument can have a conversation where it doesn't just spiral into just sheer nastiness.
Yeah.
It never usually sort of ends well. It usually ends up with people being slagged off, ripped apart, and really nasty reviews left on Facebook pages and stuff like that, when on both sides people could learn from each other.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
It's just a shame that it very rarely happens.
Yeah. I mean, back with the kennels, I went to Bernard Flink's seminar. So he's a balanced dog trainer from Germany, and he was very high up in the police force, and he bred dogs for the police as he was retiring, and was in rugby at the Schutzen Club, and it was all police officers there and their police dogs, and he was doing crowd control. One idiot with steel toe caps decided to go in and kick an 18-month-old German Shepherd for crowd control, and this dog screamed and screamed. It was horrible, and I just lost it. So I'm shouting at all these police officers and balance trainers, like, you're out of order, you're absolutely disgusting. I couldn't leave because my boss had driven us down, and he was like telling me to shut up, and I was like, no. So I stormed away over to the picnic benches, and then they all kind of dissipated, sort of thing. Bernard Flinks came up to me and he says, like, are you okay? And I think I was crying. I was so angry because of what I've seen, because like, you look up to the police and you respect them, and oh my god, these people train German Shepherds for a living to take down bad guys, and this is amazing. And I was just completely disheartened that this had happened. So Bernard Flinks was like, well, what do you think about what happened? I said, it's bang out of order, there's no need to kick the dog. You never said for anyone to touch a dog physically, and now that poor dog's in pain. And I said, and the owner never spoke up. He's his handler, his partner, he should have defended him. And then Bernard Flinks got talking to me about force-free training, balance training, and we had like an hour's talk. So this guy stopped the seminar to speak to this young kid who just shouted at a load of coppers, And he was amazing. And he says, well, I think e-collars work this way. And he was talking about timing and that sort of thing. And he said, but if you want to use food to reward, he said, then that's fine. And he says, and look, he says, two adults having a conversation. And then at the end of it, people was like tutting and moaning that he'd stopped the seminar. And he turned around and he says, look, he says, at the end of the day, this young person shouted at all of you when he never said anything about that dog being kicked. And then he turned around to the police handler and he said, have you actually checked the dog over and seen whether he needs to go to the vets or not? Because he was kicked with some force. And this police handler just went bright red. Yeah.
Yeah. If you kick my dog with steel-toed cat boots, you better have a body bag ready, because I'm going to lose
exactly. Yeah, that's the mindset I was, and I've never met this cop, I never met this dog before, but I was just so enraged as a young person, and like these people that you look up to, because mine and my boss's relationship was very, I don't know what the right word is, but we never saw eye to eye because he was balanced, I was 4'3", I didn't like his e-collars, didn't like his prong collars, and I was his helper, so I didn't actually have to handle the dogs. And he was saying to me about using e-collars. He says, look, if you want me to be your helper and your dog's wearing an e-collar, I want to know what it feels like. And the e-collar burnt my wrist, and I've still got 2 little scars. And I was like, and this is why I don't like him. I said, you're burning your dog. I was like, it makes no sense whatsoever. And he had a massive tantrum one day because I changed the way that his dogs behaved, and his dogs were friendlier and they was more solid, all through force free training. So I just used to do obedience exercises with them, tracking, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he hated it that they was more solid than when he was using the e-collars and the prong collars. And he actually threw his e-collar at me and he was like, I can't work with you anymore. Rah, 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 rah. And I was just like, well, you're supposed to teach me. And if we can't learn from each other, then that's just a real chain. Because I was like a young 20-odd-year-old and then he was in his 50s. And it could have really worked in getting this guy to change his opinions on how to like raise these dogs and get them to be solid and have a much better relationship with force free training, but he just wouldn't take it. So
that's a shame. That is a shame. But yeah, I think that's the only one I've ever seen in this area was that one at the rescue centre. I'd say the other one that I would say has become really popular, and it's probably since the John Wick 3 film, is Mally's.
Yeah.
I saw one and it was with a young lad, and it was she was an amazing looking dog, and he's like, I only paid 800 quid for her, but I've got a mate who's just paid 10 grand per pup for 2 Mallies coming from Germany, from championship lines and that, for bite work, protection, stuff like that. He's like, he's paid 20 grand for 2, I've got her for 800 and stuff like this. And like, she was an amazing looking puppy. And he's like, yeah, this is her Instagram and stuff like that. And I followed it for a while. And he was doing really well. He was actually training the dog properly. So he was meeting the dog's needs and everything like that. But then I think I was just randomly scrolling one night and it was a video on her Instagram and he was running with a prong collar on it. Like instant unfollow.
Yeah.
You're running a dog with a prong collar on. Like, for God's sake.
Makes no sense, does it?
No. But like I say, sort of, there does seem to be this big kudos at the minute, like working line dogs or dogs that are sort of massive in films and TV and stuff at the minute.
Yeah.
Which probably, I would imagine, maybe quite a lot of wolf dogs and stuff have been homed to people classed as husky mixes and stuff like that, due to stuff like Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Grace and Leon.
Sorry. Are just not aware of what they're taking on.
No, Grace and Leon had that as well. Because obviously Game of Thrones came out 7-8 years ago. And then once I started to get to know them and I was microchipping for them and that kind of thing. And they messaged me, said, oh, we've got a 9-month-old pup coming. He's lovely. They said he's adorable. But the idiots got him because apparently they wanted a dire wolf. And he's not a dire wolf, so they've returned him. and they was constantly coming back to me with dogs that was being returned to them because of Game of Thrones. And that was another reason that ethically at the time I didn't want to get one, because I knew huskies were being euthanized on a massive scale in Scotland, from what I've been told by rescues up there. And my friend, she phoned me one night. I said, I can't keep doing it. We can't just keep putting these healthy dogs to sleep because people think Game of Thrones. And apparently, like, we have staffies mostly in the UK in rescue. They mostly have huskies up there. And I just felt so sorry for her, because I was like, this is horrific. So it was that thing as well, but ethically, you can't add to it where you're getting a wolf dog and then people think it's fashionable to get one, because it's not fashionable to get a dog. It's about, can you meet that dog's needs first? But yeah, Game of Thrones is responsible for a lot, and it's not their fault. And I mean, and they did start phasing out the dog, and they was doing CGI and that kind of thing. But I think the damage had already been done. Like, whenever there's an American film and there's a Mallee, and I cringe because I know what it is, and people want a Mallee, and it's like, they are amazing dogs, yes, and I adore them, and working with them is, oh my god, because they do everything, and you can get them to do amazing things, and they do make you look amazing as a handler, and you do get a little bit excited about it because you work in this dog and you've got your pouch on your side, and this dog is looking up at your side, and you turn in and they're turning in synchronization with you, or you've got the sleeve on and you know it's Mallee's coming at you 15 meters away, and you know you're going to get body slammed to the floor. And this is a thing with Mallees, because anything you throw at them, they'll do, and they'll do with such power, and just the way they move is amazing. But again, going back to the kennels and seeing the way that they didn't cope, it's not okay. And I don't think a lot of movies take this into account. I mean, I know Halle Berry owned one of the dogs herself, which is fine and everything, but there needs to be a little bit of responsibility and a little bit of a disclaimer.
Yeah, especially in the media, when they're using these dogs, I think there does need to be sort of a disclaimer, really. You know, that
Yeah.
Joe down the street isn't going to buy a dog like that off Gumtree for 500 quid. You know, that dog has been trained professionally by someone who knows what they're doing for 2, 3, 4 years before it's even gone into that film or whatever.
Exactly.
A lot of work goes into these dogs, because I would love a Mallee, but I know, because I'm a pet care professional like you, so I'm out walking dogs or pet sitting and stuff when I'm allowed around COVID. My lifestyle at the minute would not have lend itself to owning a Mallee.
No.
So I wouldn't get one.
No.
Because it wouldn't be fair on the dog, and it'd become destructive, and there'd be so much behavioural problems because of that.
Yeah.
It's not worth it for my ego to say, oh yeah, well, I'm a dog trainer and I have a Mallee. But at the minute, my lifestyle just doesn't lend itself to that dog.
No, and the genetics of most Mallees in Schutzen. So some people breed their own, and some people go for a green dog. So that's where they've been trained up to a certain age, doing bite work, then they've had to have a rest because of teething, so they don't do training on bite work, so they'll focus more on obedience and tracking. And then you will pay 2,000 plus for one of these half-trained dogs, and then you finish them off. So you can enter competitions, or you can do protection work with them for your job. But what people don't say is, like, when I first worked there, my boss used to say, please don't go into Mallee's kennels by yourself. Like, if you need to clean them out, I'll move the dog for you, because they will bite you because you're the helper. And one day he screwed up. So I was coming out the kennel kitchen, and you go around the corner, and there was 2 kennels that contained 2 Mallees. And one of them, he was a beast. And my idiot boss decided that I must have been, like, far away in one of the other blocks sorting out the dogs. He never came to check and see if I was in the kitchen. So I'm going out carrying hot water with chemicals to go and clean further up on the blocks. He's got his Mallee out, which he's trying to take up to the van on his driveway, which is a good length. Mallee sees me, and he's like, oh, playtime. He's running up, straight bite, holding on, not letting go for anything. There's no bite sleeve, and he's bitten in the wrong place anyway. So hot water and chemicals gone everywhere, which is also dangerous for the dog.
Yeah.
because of his pads. Andy's first, it was like on his legs and stuff, and he just was not letting go. And the dog hadn't had his agitation collar put on, and that's just a collar that's got a handle on it. So the dogs just knew when they had this on it, there was work. It didn't cause pain. It was a flat collar, but he didn't have that on. There was no lead on the dog. He was completely naked and free, and he just came in for this incorrect bite straight away. And my boss couldn't get him to out because my boss, he wasn't that great, and he should have just given up, but he didn't. So I just stood there and I didn't scream. I just kept going, ow, ow, ow. And blood was pouring down this dog's face, or down his chest. And I just stood there going, ow. And this is what people don't see. We don't always have lovely Mallee breeders that are breeding for temperament to get a really nice temperament out of a Mallee.
Yeah.
A lot of the breeders that I know of were breeding so that when you walk into an 8-week-old pup pen, you're having your trousers ripped to shreds by baby Mallees because they want that drive in the dogs. And not everyone realises that a lot of Mallees can be this way, especially when they're halfway trained. Eventually did let go, but again, he just wanted to come straight back in. So my boss literally had to put his arms around his chest, walk backwards with him back into the kennel. And I just stood there in complete shock, felt really, really sick with the loss of blood and everything. And this just isn't what people realise. So when they get trained badly by members of the public, that makes me really mad as well, because the dog's just going to be given a death sentence that they don't deserve and isn't their fault. So that makes me really cross as well.
Yeah, because I think there was a video that did the rounds, I think a couple of months ago. I'm not sure if it was in Germany or whatever. I don't think I've ever watched it with the sound on, but I think it was in Europe somewhere. And it's a guy, he's putting on the bite suit, obviously to go out into the field to do whatever. And there is a Mallee puppy, and it literally just clings on. And
yeah, I saw that one.
Walks out and he's like stroking it, and it will not let go no matter what. And he's just like, he ends up just walking out. It's like people seeing it and like, oh, it's cute, oh, it's amazing. It's like, yeah. Imagine that when you're walking around with your really nice designer jumper on or whatever. It's suddenly not cute.
No.
This dog has been bred to do that, and you paid X amount of money. Is literally hanging off everything that you own.
That's it.
That comes so naturally to them. That's what's genetically in them to do.
Yeah.
And people are buying these sorts of dogs, not realizing that actually we can't meet these dogs' needs.
Exactly.
And then rescues and stuff end up getting them.
Yeah. This is where the ego needs to stop, because it's not fair. And about 2 years ago, a protection club in Sheffield was rehoming dogs to a questionable rescue centre up here. And I had a phone call from 2 elderly people in their late 70s, and they're taking on Molly from this rescue. Didn't know what they got. They thought it was a German Shepherd cross. And she's trying to kill people on the street, literally. And they was terrified. They didn't know what to do with this dog, so she kept escaping their garden. They had a 6-foot fence, and she was straight over it. And the woman just in tears on the phone said that the dog had already bit her husband. And I said, look, you need to phone the rescue now, and you need to return her. I said, because you're going to get in serious trouble. Somebody's going to get hurt seriously, and it's not fair for you to manage this type of dog. And she did. She phoned the rescue straight away. She phoned me about 2 hours later and said that somebody was coming to collect the dog, and if they wasn't there by that time, then one of their friends was going to drive the dog up there themselves. But yeah, she just sat there reading all the paperwork to me and said like Belgian Malinois, and I was like, Belgian Malinois is not a German Shepherd cross. But yeah, clearing their 6-foot garden, and she was like chasing people down the street and grabbing clothes and this kind of thing. And it turned out she come from a protection club, and then the same thing in the same town, another elderly couple took on a German Shepherd, and they couldn't work out why she was showing similar behaviours, like she wasn't escaping from their property, but when they was trying to walk her, she was shouting and trying to like jump and leap at all of their friends, and they was getting really scared. So I went round, and I just kind of like sat outside their gate for a while until you got slats for it. And I was like, I'm not coming in until I know it's safe to come in, sort of thing. I said, I'm not setting up to fail, and I don't need to see you guys upset. So after a load of treats and that, she let me in, and she was super duper footy, and she was absolutely fine. Took her for a walk, and it was somebody had trained this dog to do protection work, and she was launching at other people. And I said to them, like, you've got two choices again. I said, you're living in a place where she can get plenty of exercise. You can take her out for late night walks if you think you're capable. I said, or you can return her. And I said, if you don't choose to return her, I said, I'll gladly work with you and I'll help you to, you know, get this out of her, sort of thing, and socialise her. And they was distraught. And then 2 days later, they phoned me back and it's like, no, if you can intensely work with us and help her, it's like, we don't want to return her because we don't like where she's come from. So I did. And then after about, I don't know, 3 months, she was really, really good. And they just knew that they'd never be able to let her off the lead reliably in the public, that kind of thing. But she got to the point where she could cope and sit or lie down whilst I was talking to other people, and she realised it wasn't a job anymore to be trying to take people down, and that people weren't threatening or anything like that. But for this couple, and this is what a lot of people plan as well, they'd lost their previous dog, so 2 weeks later they went out to get another one. They're elderly, they missed their German Shepherd, so of course they wanted to go and get another one. But there's an ethics behind it. If you're in rescue and you see some heartbroken people come to you, you can't just say, oh, well, we've got a German Shepherd and we'll give back to you. There has to be like several meetings for hours, like the RSPCA do, where you go up 3 different times for 3 or 4 hours at a time. You meet the dog and you make sure the dog's okay for you. Whereas this rescue, just throwing out dogs to these elderly people, and it's just like, what are you doing? Because who does it fall on if the dog bites and the person bleeds out? Because if they're elderly. But yeah, it just drives me absolutely insane. And I'm not saying there isn't amazing Mallee breeders out there who do breed for temperament. I'm not saying that at all. And again, I'm not saying it with German Shepherds, but like you said yourself with films, especially John Wick, people are attracted to these dogs that are taking people down, and that's just not okay.
No. I mean, it's slightly different, but I think it was about a year ago. I think I was out walking Kia, I think it was, the little Jack Russell Cross Lurcher, and she's like scared of the world, bless her. And we encountered this elderly old woman who's on 2 walking sticks, and she had this absolute nutball of a Jack Russell Cross something that was only about 2-3 years old. So it wasn't a big dog, but it was a fiery little bugger. And it sort of came spinning past us, and then we saw this woman, and she got the lead in her hand and these 2 walking sticks. She was like, I've got to let it off lead because I can't keep up with it. I can't walk with it. I was like, how long have you had the dog? She's like, oh, I've only had it about 6 weeks. I was like, all right, okay. She's like, yeah, I got it from a rescue centre. I was like, who's matched this dog to you? It's so high energy, and yeah, it's not a big dog, it's not a Rottweiler or anything like that, but it's a powerful little thing.
Yeah.
You're on 2 walking sticks. You're clearly not great on your pins, whether it, I don't know, issues with your hips or whatever, but you actually can't physically be in control of this dog in a public place. You've got to let it off lead, otherwise it pulls you over. Like,
Yeah.
who was the rehoming officer that dealt with you? Because this rehoming is a total mismatch.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you love that dog and the dog loves you, you're, for your own health reasons, you can't meet the needs of that dog. It needs to be with someone who can. You know, maybe, I don't know, an elderly little Yorkshire Terrier or something that is just happy just dawdling around the garden and around this block for 20 minutes and they're done. It's fine, but a really young, energetic Jack Russell Cross that wants to be, 300 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It was just wrong. And I spoke to her for about half an hour and I said, like, as much as you love the dog, I think you need to, whatever rescue centre you've got it from, I think you need to have a conversation that really this is not the best way for you, because we were walking up in the tracks and it like goes up into the middle of nowhere. I was like, so I would hate for you to fall over in the middle of nowhere, and
someone might not walk past you for hours. You could be lying on the floor and the dog could be like off having the time of its life through in the woods. But no one could find you for a few hours because it does spiral off. It goes everywhere.
Yeah.
This poor woman could have actually been seriously hurt.
It's
And
not fair.
I think I saw her probably a few months later, and she said that the rescue centre did take the dog back.
Okay.
And they were in the process of waiting for maybe a more senior dog that was just quite happy with a little amble around the block and just sort of needed a nice home for its retirement.
Yeah.
So thankfully that whatever rescue centre it was were really good with her and did take it back and admitted that maybe they got it slightly wrong.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just think rehomings like that shouldn't be taking place, and like you say, giving like older couples like Malleys and Shepherds that have been trained for protection, and that shouldn't be happening.
No, definitely not. And I mean, I know these dogs retired at 6 or 7, but to me, a 70-year-old, 60-year-old, and it's no disrespect to age at all, but this man was disabled, and this was a lot for him to take on, especially in the community that he was in, like trying to talk to people and stuff. You don't want your dog to be trying to take down your friends that are of your age, sort of thing. It's not nice. It's like we used to have a Czech Wolfdog rescue, and the lady quit about 3 years ago. She was an amazing lady, and she got death threats and all sorts because she refused people to have wolf dogs because she knew that they weren't the right fit. And she was an amazing lady, and she didn't care about content, which is what loads of people obsess over for whatever reason. I don't know why in the UK, because they must be low content, otherwise they're illegal. So why would you put your own dog at risk of being seized? It makes no sense to me. But yeah, she went through absolute hell, and then she went, you know what, enough's enough, I don't need this. So she quit. So one and only wolf dog rescue we had in the UK, she quit because people's ego would not accept you trying to do right by the dogs, which is just horrific.
Yeah, I mean, I had that when I sort of worked in rescue, and I can remember it really strongly. This guy came in with his girlfriend, and they seemed really nice and pleasant and polite and stuff like that. And I was just going about cleaning dog poo up and cleaning food bowls and different things and whatever. And they were walking around the kennels, and I think we had. He was a really big staffy. I think it was Tawny who I absolutely fell in love with. He was a big bulldozer, but a proper goofball. And I overheard him say, "Look at the size of that. He could well intimidate some people into staying away from us." And I went straight through, like around and into the main office, and the manager and that was there. And I was like, "Whatever you do, don't rehome a dog to these people," because I've just overheard them talking about having some sort of bull breed or like Tawny, the big staffy, to intimidate people. I was like, so whatever, find a reason that they cannot have a dog from us.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, he seemed quite lackadaisical about it, but I was just like, no, they're not having a dog.
No.
Not a chance, just because of that one little thing that they said.
The thing is, if you get a dog, it's for a companion. It's not to make you look big or clever or anything like that. It's like my clients know that I very rarely go to the beach with the dogs, and they know that we drive out places where it's deadly quiet. And it's because these dogs aren't about ego, and it's not about parading them around the seaside town, and it's not about being big and clever. It is that they fitted my life. I fell in love with the breed, and it's just the breed that I wanted. And then obviously we fell with Django and Zombie. But it was never about them being a fashion accessory or anything like that. I mean, originally when they was bred, the scientists who conducted the experiment put a wolf to a German Shepherd because the Russians wanted a more scary dog than the German Shepherd because they felt that the German Shepherd was losing the line to being overbred. And when they bred them, they realised with the F1s, they'd made a mess. And the puppies weren't able to be touched. They weren't able to do anything with them. And it was really sad. So they bred again, and they watered them down. When they realised the more they watered them down, they was getting a really nice dog out of it. because obviously back then they still held on to the ideology that wolves relate to dogs anyway, and obviously now it's proven that. And they wanted them to do protection work, so they wanted them to take down other soldiers, and they found that the wolf dogs were like, no, we're scared, we can't do that, that's too scary. So now the Russians only use them for tracking because they're amazing at scent work. So the thing is, like, if you want a wolf dog, you've got to accept they don't want to be friends with everyone. They're going to be terrified of most other dogs, and if you want to get them into a sport, you're best off doing scent work, because that's what they enjoy doing. They're amazing at scent work. In fact, scent work, you have to think even harder about what you can do for them, because they don't kind of go bobbing, sniffing around like a normal dog. It's like, say, you idiot, what's your problem? Give me my reward. So there's no sort of like watching them follow the trail. They just bang straight on it, and it's like it's there. And again, I put videos up of this as well. So these will be like ambling around, like, well, I'm not quite sure, I can smell something here, and I'm going to go check back here. And it's a normal dog, and a wolf dog just takes all the fun out of it. So, and this is it. If you're having a wolf dog, you just got to accept your life's going to be very, very different. And if you're doing it for ego or fashion, then they're just not the dog for you at all.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
No, absolutely not. No. Oh, I suppose I better let you go because you've got a training class about to start in a few minutes, haven't
Oh,
you?
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to arrange maybe another one to finish this off.
Yeah, I mean, I can do, if you're free, when I finish my class, I should be done for 7, I can carry on.
Yeah, we can do that.
If you're
Yeah.
free, it's up to you.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, I'll let you have your
Sure.
class, get a brew, get your tea, whatever, and then we'll finish it off. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel bad kind of like leaving it halfway through.
No, you're all right. It's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, let you go and do your class.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so if you could send another link, and then I'll jump straight back onto it at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, Ben.
All right, see you in a bit.
See you later.
See ya.